Today's topic is the first time home buying process. And Natalie and I like to do this session twice a year, once around now when people are deciding if they're going to renew their leases or not. So for those of you who are renters, you may have, jumped the gun and said, I'm not renewing my lease. But then the next step is, oh no, where am I going to live July 1st? We also like to do it like around September as well. So I guess we'll get into it right away, Natalie, because I know you're on a time frame.
Yes,
Did you want to introduce yourself before we start?
sure. Good evening, everyone. I'm
Oh,
very
we
happy
can't
to
hear
be here.
you.
Oh, no. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, got scared. Good evening, everyone. My name is Nathalie Procikevic. I'm a realtor at Sutton Performer in the West Island, but I live in Villa Saint Laurent, close to Lynn, and I cover the entire island and more, and South Shore, North Shore, and even further. Sometimes my clients sometimes take me for nice rides to discover some cottage country. But tonight I'm here to talk to you about the first time home process. I just want to make sure, Lynn, can you tell me if my sound is good? Because sometimes I hear myself. Is everything good?
Yeah, the sound is good. Someone wasn't on mute, so I
Okay,
mute them.
okay, perfect. So if you want me to start with my part, or I don't know how you wanted to do this. Like I can just mention because I have like it's eight eight steps for the buying process, but I have to admit that the first step on my sheet is get to understand your budget and talk to a mortgage broker for your pre-approval. So this is my step number one. I'll let Lynn talk about this, and then I'll continue with the rest of the process.
Yeah, so when it comes to the first time home buying process, that is the number one. The number one is your budget, mortgage pre-approval. It's a necessity. To be honest, to be frank, I don't even understand how or why someone would go shopping for a home without knowing how much they would be pre-approved for. And the reality is, people have a number in their head that they may have come up with by using an online calculator. But in reality, it's not at all what they would be approved for. So mortgage pre-approval is the first thing you need to do before you go house shopping. I want to explain the big difference between a mortgage pre-qualification and a mortgage pre-approval. Mortgage pre-qualification, basically, you could get that within 2 minutes. A lot of lenders, a lot of banks, you could go online, you enter your information, and then the system spits out this pre-qualification letter. That is no good because number one, the information you may have provided might not be accurate. It's not verified. There was no credit check that was done. So pre-qualification is just a guesstimate, and lenders use this as a way to bring you in. You need a mortgage pre-approval. You will know when you have a mortgage pre-approval because the process is very annoying. As a mortgage broker, I'm asking you for everything, and I specify exactly what I need. In general, if you are a salaried employee, the documents that I need from you are 2 pieces of ID. I need your last 2 pay stubs. I need your last 2 years of T4s. So we're in tax season right now. It's either going to be 2021, 2022 T4s or 2022, 2023. So we're at that point where companies are starting to issue their 2023s. Very important. I need proof of down payment. Proof of down payment, this is a federal government law. It has to be 90 days of statements. So wherever your down payment is coming from, whether it's your checking account, your RRSP, your TFSAs, some savings account that you've had for forever, I need the last 90 days of statements. Now, if there's an issue getting those statements, I'm also a financial advisor. I know sometimes it's not possible to get statements, or the advisor you are working with is giving you a hard time. Let me know. I know which financial institutions do not offer up-to-date statements. And then there are others, it is possible to get them, but the person you're speaking to over there doesn't know how to get them. So please let me know. It's very, very important. This is where a lot of people mess up on. It's 90 days from 90 days, the last 90 days from today. So once I receive all those documents, Basically, we run a credit check and we analyze all the numbers and tell you how much you are pre-approved for. But even beyond that, we'll go over the different types of rates because depending on the type of mortgage you want to get, your rate may change. And if your rate varies, it may also impact your borrowing capacity. So tonight, I'm not going to talk about rates. I'm just going to mention that not all rates are alike. So when you go online and you look at rates online, that's for a specific type of client, and it might not be you. So the rates that you see online are for insured purchases, meaning that you put less than 20% down for owner-occupied homes. These are the lowest rates on the market. If you're putting at least 20% down, your rate's going to be higher than what you see online. And that's basically how it works. Do I necessarily agree with that? No, but I don't make the rules. That's how it is. But mortgage pre-approval, very important. It gives you an accurate number. It gives you an accurate depiction of how much you could borrow. And when I work with clients, it's not just giving your documents, this is your pre-approval. I go over the different mortgage options with you so that you get the mortgage that fits your situation. Before I hand it over to you, Nathalie, the one question everyone asks, difference between the bank or working with a mortgage broker. Most people will naturally go to their bank. The person that you're going to meet with at the bank is a mortgage specialist, so therefore they offer mortgage products that are available at your bank. They might not necessarily have the lowest rate on the market for your situation. As a mortgage broker, I work with all different lenders, and I can tell you there's no such thing as a lender always offering the best rate all the time. Especially over the last few years, we get rate sheets and rate updates almost every other day. And so rates really change all the time. Sometimes on my end as a mortgage broker, one lender will have a promo rate for the next 48 hours. They'll send us a thing, hey, next 24 hours, anybody who's looking for this type of mortgage, we're giving them a discount type of thing. So that's the difference between working with a mortgage specialist and a mortgage broker. We have access to all the lenders, whereas the bank only has their products, and not every bank works the same way. Angela?
Yeah. So I had a question. You went through the requirements of salaried employees or people with a T4. What about those that are on their own account?
So I'm going to answer that at the end.
Okay, no problem.
I forgot to say that questions at the end. I know usually we interact, but questions at the end. So yeah, remind me to answer that question. And so at this point, you have your mortgage pre-approval. You're pre-approved for this amount. Next thing is the fun part, which is the house shopping, and I'll pass it over to Nathalie for that. Oh, you're on mute.
Forgot to unmute myself. Do you hear me? Good? Okay. So yes, the fun part can start. Because I have to admit, going into strangers' house and see how they live and trying to visualize yourself in those houses is fun. You kind of like get lost a little bit sometimes into details that are not supposed to, make you decide, but it's fun. It's the part that my clients like the best. But before you actually start visiting, I would suggest you actually sit with your broker, with your real estate agent, and you actually go into the criteria, what you like. You try to explain what you're looking to do, because moving, is a big step, but your realtor needs to understand the entire plan. Because he needs to set up a Centris alert, because you can do that. You can go on Centris and look for houses. But if you set it up with your realtor, then he or she can see exactly what the criteria that you've chosen. And then we see it coming out at the same time. I see it when you put like or love, and I can act on it right away. I can access the documents behind the listing that you cannot see, and I can already pre-screen the information. I can already see if there's a main issue or not with the house, or if it's worth going right away. And being proactive like this, working alongside your realtor, will really make the process better. But I usually like to sit with my clients for 1 hour before we start all of this, just to understand the project. What are you trying to do? Where are you trying to move? What's the plan? Did you have your pre-approval, the pre-approval done? Let's select the criteria. Did you go around those neighborhoods? Did you actually just get a vibe of those places you want to move to? Because I like my clients to kind of also do that. And then when all of that is done and we select the properties, then we can start visiting. But in that first meeting that I sit with you, I'm going to also tell you stuff that maybe usually some mortgage broker do, and maybe Lynn does too. But how much does it cost to buy a house? And I do go through these stuff with you right away from the get-go, because I don't want you to get surprised at the end when we actually do all of this and it's fun and you put an offer on a house and then you're being told you need to pay for this, you need to pay for that, you need to pay, and there's a list of 10 things that you actually have to pay as a buyer that for me are so important for you to know from the get-go. First thing first, if you actually put an offer on a house, you might have to do the inspection right away. Inspection prices varies from one inspector to the other, and it varies a lot. You have to shop for them, and I do not mean that you need to go with the cheaper one. That's not what I say. I just say that the price vary a lot, and it vary a lot also depending on the type of property that you are inspecting. If you do not know any inspector, your broker is there to help you find one. He has a list of inspectors that he used, and you can get help. But just so you know, you need to shop, and when you actually have an offer accepted, you have to go fast, so you don't have time to do this for weeks, and you pay for that. A price inspection, I would say for at the moment it's around the $600 before taxes for for a simple house, but if you go bigger, then it goes up. What you could also have is a call from, if you imagine that you actually go with the bank, and you can actually get a call from the bank saying that you have to pay for the lender evaluation, because sometimes bank wants to evaluate the price of the house to make sure that they actually lend you the right amount of money, and it's a few other extra hundred of dollars that is known to be done, for example, by Desjardins, sometimes 300 and more. The other thing that you need to know, imagine we do the inspection and everything is good, but the inspector mentioned a few things that should be investigated. Anything that you want to do extra on the house, any other inspection, such as maybe a pirate test, or maybe you want to have, if it's outside Montreal, you have the septic tank to check the water because it comes from a well, anything that you want to do, it's again, you paying for all these things. Again, pirate test, $500. Water test, $200. Septic tank, another $500. I'm just throwing numbers at you here. Again, it depends of the region where you're doing them, the people who are available at that moment, and how much they charge. I'm just saying, all of these things adds up. And you do pay for these things before even knowing that you're getting that house. So it can actually fall through, but you still have to pay all these fees. It's part of the buying process. Then when you actually done with all of this and everything went well, then you go to the notary, and it's the notary of your choice because you're paying for it. This is your transaction. The seller too will be charged a small portion, but you actually are buying the house, you choose your notary, you paying for the biggest amount, and he will have some adjustment to make, because imagine that you buy a house right now, sometimes now, imagine next month you're actually buying a house in March, the seller might have paid all the taxes for the year, so you have to reimburse him. So the notary's job is to do those adjustments to make sure that whoever paid taxes needs to be reimbursed. So you will have to pay that amount in cash. It's not coming out from the mortgage. This is extra at the notary. Other thing, imagine that it's a place heated by still oil tank. You have to reimburse the full oil tank to the seller. If it's a rental place, imagine you're buying a duplex and the seller is getting rents from all those people, and you actually buying it in the middle of the month. He owes you half of the month that he's already received. So all these things are the notary's job, but do realize that whatever's on your part that you need to reimburse, you'll need to reimburse cash at the notary. He needs to see that you do an e-transfer right in front of him to the seller. The other thing that you will need to pay on top of all of this is the tax de bienvenue, the welcome tax that everybody knows, is the property transfer tax that will come into your mailbox pretty soon. I think it goes fast. And again, these calculations can be done prior to the purchase, because you can go on the municipality website wherever you're moving, and there is a calculation stated on those websites, and you can just follow it and just make sure you understand how much you will need to pay. The other thing that you will have to think about just at that time is, do you want, but of course you're going to insure your house. You will need to prove it to the notary, so you will need to pay for that. You do not pay it in one shot the full year, but again, this is a new thing that you will have to start paying right off the bat. And do you want a life insurance on those on that house? And that again is a discussion that you should have, around that time. Moving fees, because I find it's rare nowadays that you can invite a bunch of friends and pay them some beers and pizza and have all your house moved. Now everybody use moving movers, and they are not that cheap, So again, plan all these things. And the last one that I have on my list, I know, I'm sorry, it's a long list. It's the actually I had two. I forgot one, Lynn, I'm so sorry. It's the mortgage insurance. If you actually do not have 20% down and your mortgage is insured, it can be added to your mortgage, but you have to pay the tax cash, which is a 9% tax. This is a little thing, but sometimes people forget. And this needs to be paid also at that time when you purchase. And the last one of my list, which is not something that some people think about because they're using all their money to buy the house, but is this house up to your liking? Do you need to pay some money to renovate it? Do you need to feel good in that house? Because I do have clients who move into places who didn't think about that budget, and they end up not liking where they like because they do not have the money to make it up to their liking and up to their style. So then they start feeling bad, and I keep telling them you need a full year in your new place to know, how it feels. But even after a year, if it's not your style, it's not your style. So renovations, decoration, did you move outside of Montreal? Do you need a new car? All these things that are not that related to the actual price of the house, for me, should be stated at the get-go when we visit houses, because I find it so important that you need to feel good in your new place. So these are all the things that you need to consider when buying a house. So this is the kind of thing that I go through on the first meeting with my buyers. Then you finally start the search. I tell my clients, good to window shop. It's good to go to the different neighborhoods, decide, what is super important for you. Is there anything out of your criteria that you can compromise? Your realtor needs to know that. This is such a simple little thing, but for example, and it's as stupid as that, there are people who say, I really, really need my 3 bedrooms upstairs or above ground because I need both my kids on the same level as me. So we're not looking at anything that is 2 bedrooms with the other bedrooms in the basement. That's a major point for me. If you can compromise on that, you will have more things to see and things that other people don't look at because of that specific criteria. But if for you, you're totally fine with 2 bedroom because your kids are already gone, because this, because that, I don't know, then of course it's extremely valuable information for your broker. That's an example again. There's so many different things, but I think you understand what I mean when I tell you this. So we set up the alert on Centris. I see you logging in. I see everything coming out. You put likes, you put love. We start visiting. We take the pulse. We as we go and as we visit, I want to feel like ask question. I want to exactly know how you feel about these properties, and I remember all the details. So each time we actually book others, I know which one we might end up in the top 3, so the favorite, because I try to understand what you like and what's good for you. Then finally, next step, you decide on a house. You're ready to make an offer on that house. Then we're going to start analyzing all the documents that I told you are linked to this property, but you do not see. The public do not see it. It's behind the screen. This is something I can access, and I usually just send them all to you so you can actually review them and ask all your questions before we put the offer. You have to understand that any documentation that is provided by the brokers, the seller's broker, is documentation that you have to read prior, because you making an offer knowing all that information. So you cannot, for example, say, I'm making an offer at that price point, and then after reading all of this, after actually putting an offer and getting it accepted, you're like, well, I wasn't sure that the roof wasn't guaranteed. Well, you should have checked before, and you should have asked your question before. If that was a deal breaker for you, you cannot just go back and change your mind just like that. Because what you have to understand is that in the offer, there's a clause that says that we have a list of documents to verify in a certain number of days, and we want them to provide it. But if it's already provided, I don't put it in there, because for me, it's already one step done. We want our offer to be as attractive as possible, so we don't want to add extra stuff to make it heavy. We want them to see we're on track. We've read everything. Everything's good for us. This offer is not actually how do you say I'm trying to find the verb in English, but I'm losing it. Sorry, I'm losing my track of mind. But I don't know if everybody can nod that they understand what I mean.
Yes.
With my ID, thank you. So we check those documents, and I love to ask the questions before, if we have time. In this market right now, which is not like a heated market, even though we do see multiple offers, but we have a bit more time than when it was heated. So it's the time to do it. It's the time to take the time to do it well. You have a better balance environment to actually read this, ask your question, make sure you're doing the right thing. And your broker is there to really, sometimes I can answer 3/4 of those questions, but just because I'm so used to those documents. And sometimes I have to go and ask for more because there are some questions I don't know. Then we check the deadlines. Very important. What does the seller want, and can we give him what he wants? The better your offer is, and the closest it is to what the seller wants, and I'm not talking about the price, I'm talking about deadlines. Does he want the house for another 60 days after an offer accepted? But maybe you didn't renew your lease, and you need to be out by July 1st. And depending on you put your offer, all of this has to be calculated. Again, your broker is there to make sure that it's the right way to do it. And I ask the right question to make sure that we fall on the right date, and you're not surprised at the end that you need to go to the notary on July 5th when you're out of your apartment on July 1st. Again, it's an example. And then we finally, after analyzing all of this, after asking all our questions, after me giving you even more information than that, I go in the past. I see all the other listings when the house was listed back in the years. I go check the seller's declaration back in the years. I analyze as much as I can that I can access, and I give you that information just to make sure that we have the full story and we're okay with this. And then you just write the offer with your broker as best as you can, the best offer you can do, something you're comfortable with. And the sentence I use at the time, that I'm gonna show you every time sold comparables. I'm not gonna show you what's in the neighborhood and how much they ask. I'm gonna show you how much a similar house sold in the I don't know, last 2-3 months. And with that number, we can know, are they asking too much? Are they right? Are they right there? What should we put on the table that is a good price, but we're not overpaying, we're not underpaying, and we can start the conversation low and get where we want. But what I'm trying to make you understand is that you're not alone in this. We're there to help you figure out the right number. At the end, you tell me, because this is your purchase, this is your money, it's not mine. This is your mortgage, this is your monthly payment. So I tell you every time, did you make the calculation with whatever Lynn told you what the rate might be? Do you know how much monthly you will be paying? I always ask that question. When we put those numbers, a big number doesn't mean anything. I bring it back to the monthly payment. Does it fit you? Do you understand what we're doing right now? And then if it does fit you and everybody's happy, then we put it on paper. And that number is a magical number. I always say the same sentence. This is the magical number that will make you happy if you get it at that price, but you will not regret it if you do not get it. I don't know if you understand what I mean, but if you do not get it at that price, you have no regret because you wouldn't have gone further, further than that. And that's a magical price that you're the only person capable of telling me. I cannot give you that price. So this is how I try to help my buyers going through that process. Then after that, we send it over. They have a deadline to reply, and that's the next step. Next step is getting an answer for your offer. At that moment, they need to keep us updated. Any broker out there has to send us a message every time an offer comes in. There's been a lot of dramatic situation on the news. I've heard so many things about brokers making fake offers and doing, crazy stuff. I can guarantee you that these are like a bunch of crazy people who really didn't care about their clients and their career and their license. Most of us, the majority of us, are fed up of these news because they do not represent us. I am working so hard for my clients and for their, the best I can, that when I see these things, I know deep inside that my clients know me enough to understand that I'm not one of these. But it's so annoying that we have to always fight to explain, the situation. Any broker out there needs to send us a message via an application that is called Imo Contact, and it's like an application between brokers where all the messages are saved, and that can be brought to court if anything goes wrong with the transaction, so we can track the transaction. Via this application, they send us notification about what's new with this listing. If I send them an offer, I send it right away via this thing. I just sent you an offer today, February 6th at 7:31 p.m. Please confirm good reception. Why am I so detailed? Because I don't want them to tell me tomorrow morning, I didn't see it. You freaking got a notification via this application, reply. And if they don't reply within the hour, I send a second one. And if they don't reply in 2 hours later, I send a third one. And I'm that kind of broker who's going to say, I'm calling if it's in the evening, then first thing in the morning, I call the agency director. One of our brokers is not answering to me. And I go and I run after them to make sure that this transaction, we're not missing it just because a broker is not capable of reading his emails because he's too overwhelmed with his clients. So these seems like details, but they're not. All these little things that I keep telling my clients, and for you tonight, it's so much information. I know that it feels, like a lot, but I can tell you, I'm there to repeat it all the time. We put an offer. I tell you exactly. They have until tomorrow 7 p.m. to come back to us. And then as we go on for the next 24 hours, I'm on the phone with you all the time, sending you notifications of what's going on. And at the end, if nobody else came in and you were alone on the table, this is a perfect situation. You're one-on-one with the seller. So we know exactly, that they will reply to us, and they have three options. They can refuse it because we were just way too low and he's just not someone who's willing to even start the discussion. I don't know who would do that, but you never know. They can accept it as is with not changing anything. And the third thing, they can counter offer it. And sometimes it happens as a fourth one, and it's because of, I don't know what the reason. Maybe sometimes it happens that the seller is out of the country and his broker couldn't get hold of him. It happened to me before that I was in a transaction where they couldn't get hold of the seller, which I find crazy during, they just put the house for sale and they couldn't get a hold of him. But the offer is ignored. So the deadline actually, is passed and your offer actually expires. So what we will have to do after is or revive it through the seller or send a new one. But
Nathalie,
these are the options.
Nathalie, just letting you know, we have about like 10 more minutes, and then we're gonna
Yeah,
take.
I'm almost done. It's because I'm going into detail with these offers, but it's just so important for you to understand that at those moments you have to be available. You cannot disappear after putting an offer. I need to have you on hold for the next 24 hours, because as soon as we have a notification and as soon as we have an answer, I do need you to reply to that answer. If it's a counter offer at a specific price and we have, I don't know, sometimes they come to offer and we have like 3 hours to answer and you're not reachable, then we lose it. I cannot answer for you. I cannot take that decision for you, and I cannot sign the document for you anyway. So all these deadlines will be extremely important. Imagine that it goes through, you actually get an offer accepted, and then starts the most, and Lynn can confirm, is the most stressful part of the transaction, which is the 2 weeks after an offer is accepted. You have to waive your conditions, which are firstly the mortgage. You need to get a final letter from the bank, and that's when you call Lynn, for example, straight away the day after getting an offer accepted. It's done. I have an accepted offer. Can you just send it all to the bank and have it approved? But unfortunately, to any of us, we kind of at the mercy of the bank or whoever's working there. So sometimes, if we do not prepare the documents on time, then we get like delayed, and the 2 weeks pass so fast. And unfortunately, you could lose the house because maybe someone else is looking at it. Maybe someone else already said verbally they're interested to make a better offer than you, even though they don't know what's your offer. But the seller might be interested to see another buyer. So you should waive your conditions on time. That's the best advice I can give you. And I'm there to remind you this is what we need to do, and I'll be on your back to know if all the documents were submitted, if you found your inspector, if you've booked it. I'll be there to make sure all of that. When all of your
I just wanted to ask for the mortgage part. So this is one of the reasons why it's so important to get a mortgage pre-approval, because usually when we have a mortgage pre-approval, I've already sent it to a lender. Then once you have an accepted offer, all I might need from you are updated documents, because maybe a little bit of time has passed. So maybe a recent pay stub or something along those lines. But if you haven't done anything and you just go out with Nathalie, I know Nathalie usually doesn't go with someone who isn't pre-approved yet. But if you just go out on your own and you make an offer and you call me and you're like, Lynn, I made an offer. In my head, I'm like, oh no, I hope you have all your documents in order. And human nature is that most of us don't have our documents in order. And so let's say today is the accepted offer and I send you the list of documents once again that I need. 9 times out of 10, people will start sending me documents, but by the time I receive all those documents, we're talking like 4 or 5, sometimes 6 days later. And the financing deadline is usually 2 weeks. So it's so important for the pre-approval, because your final approval is going to be faster. Because I'm not going to ask you for everything again. I'm just going to ask you for a couple of documents to update your file. And like I said, when you have the pre-approval, I've probably sent it to a lender anyway, so they have it already, and they're just waiting for you to come with an offer on a home. So Nathalie, if you want to talk about after, once the offer's been accepted, I guess.
So yeah, after the conditions are lifted, at this time we already like offer accepted, doing the conditions, mortgage, the documents, the inspection. We're doing everything. Everything is done. You're happy with everything. We're lifting those conditions. How do we lift the condition? We get the letter from the bank that your approval is sealed. So we send it to the seller who signs on it. That's how we waive it. As for the inspection, we book it, we do it, they let us go, we give them our answer, and then we fill up a form that says, I've done my inspection, I've agreed with it, I'm good with it, I'm lifting my condition. Without those documents, you're not lifting any conditions. You have to do it properly. When those conditions are lifted, which are the conditions that were on your offer, maybe there's something else. Maybe there's a condition of checking some documents they didn't provide. This thing too will need to lift it. Whatever condition you put in there will need to lift it. When everything is lifted and confirmed, the house is yours. It's sold. It's official. It goes off Centris. It disappears from Centris. The sold price appear on Centris, so whoever was looking at it, any other broker can see it. And the only thing that you have to wait after that, you can finally breathe. You can book your notary and you wait for the notary date. Sometimes it's only 2 weeks after lifting all the conditions, so you'd better find a notary before. But sometimes you have time because the agreement was that they can stay in the house for 60 days or 90 days, and you have time to actually, get the notary sorted. But those weeks, the house, nobody can go and buy it after, this is yours. It's completely yours. And then finally comes the notary date where you sign.
Just one thing on the mortgage side for the notary. So let's just say we do a transaction today, you get your final approval, all the conditions are listed, the final approval today, but notary day is not for another few months. It's very normal. Now, a lot of people ask, especially right now because rates are changing all the time, a lot of people ask, can I change my rates? Like, let's say rates go down, can I change my rate between now and then? So ideally, notaries like to receive, what happens is that when you have a final approval, the lender will typically send your file to the notary about 30 days before close. Not that they can't do it in less time, they do, but sometimes they charge more. But ideally, notaries like to send your file to, lenders like to send your file to the notary about 30 days in advance. So basically, as long as we're within, like it's not 30 days, it's more than 30 days before closing, not an issue. We could, arrange the rate, maybe even change the terms. Maybe initially you wanted a fixed rate, but now variable rates are different. You're more comfortable with a variable rate. We could change the terms of the mortgage as long as we're more than 30 days out. If you're in the 30 days, not that it's not possible, but depending on the notary, some notaries charge more, and it depends on the difficulty of the transaction. So I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah. So also the shortest time you can actually get the keys from the date you put an offer to the date you get the keys is 15 days if you had no mortgage. So imagine there's no mortgage, so you just need to do your inspection and have a notary accepting to do the paperwork in 15 days, or 30 days if it's with a mortgage, because you need 2 weeks for the mortgage and a minimum of 2 weeks for the notary to process the documents. So you will see it very often when you're in the process. Most of the sellers out there says 30 days after offer accepted, they're ready to let it go, maybe because they already moved out, so the house is already empty, or maybe they're ready to go. They're just ready to leave it in 30 days. The last thing, notary day. Everybody's there. Sometimes they accept the broker to attend with you. Sometimes they don't. COVID has changed a lot of rules. But what's important, and that's the only advice I'm going to finish with, when you get the keys, when you enter your new house after signing at the notary, sometimes it's the day of the notary that you get the keys. Sometimes it's 2 days later. It happens. Sometimes sellers want to see the money in their account before they give you the keys, even though the money is at the notary, but they just want it on their account. So it takes 48 hours to get there, and then they give you the keys. So do not be surprised. It's normal. When you finally go into the house, that's the moment to look at everything. Is it the way you saw it? Is everything working properly? Are all the inclusions that you had in the offer there, are they working properly? Because you cannot say 2 months later that it's not working. So that's the time to check all the inclusion, make sure everything is there. Sometimes the dishwasher is gone because the seller forgot that it was included. They made a mistake. And it's okay, they'll bring it back, but just say it now, don't wait. So that's the only thing that you should think about when you get the keys. I know it's very exciting, and I know just want to party maybe, but you have still to do these things and finish on a good note. And that's it for me. So I'm ready for the questions.
I'll start with Angela's question, which was what happens when you're self-employed and you're trying to qualify for a mortgage. So to qualify for a standard mortgage loan, lenders will ask you for full T1 generals from the 2 previous tax years. So if we're talking about right now, let's say you're looking for a mortgage pre-approval right now, it would be 2021, 2022, T1 generals full. So the long version. And what's a T1 general? It's basically what you send to the government when you file your taxes. So we need that. And what we do is we take the average of 2 years taxable income. So basically your gross minus your deductions, you have an amount that you're paying taxes on. It's the average of 2 years.